Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Let's do this. Hi, hi, hi. Welcome, everyone, to the stream. 117 people here. Oh, I forgot to tweet about this. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, Aisuna. Welcome, Kiki the Hippie. Welcome, KT Gremlin Teeth. Let me take this thing off. This is for recording the podcast. We're not doing that right now. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Hello, Lovejoy. Hello, Riley H227. Hello, Chim Chimney Cherub. Hello, Slowblind Sage. Hello, Bake 31011. Hello, Raven Gem 2121. Super intrigued by the title. Thank you for saying so, Slowblind Sage. Didn't need our light to be quite so hot there. I got one of these fucking Elgato things. Look at this. I can blast myself with light. Holy crap. Still waiting for all my camera equipment to come in so I can have a really nice stream quality and be off of this Logitech. Off of this Logitech shit. Hey, Copernicus. Thank you so much for the subscription, Copernicus42. Really appreciate that. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to this channel. I appreciate you. Because I'm not able to... Here's the deal. Everyone's always asking when's the next Adam Ruins Everything coming out. Cannot talk about it yet. I'm under NDA. However, I am not out of work. I have been working on television. And hopefully soon I'll be able to tell you about it. We're like talking about finally fucking spilling the beans. But until then, I actually cannot shoot anything because of the pandemic. So I'm putting a little more time into Twitch. Putting a little more time into TikTok, too. You can follow me at, excuse me for the burp. You can follow me at TikTok. Adam Ruins TikTok is the name of my TikTok account. Still getting started. I only have 2 TikToks posted so far. Trying to see if I want to invest more time in TikTok. Tic-tac-toe. I'm live with another... We got to tweet about this. I'm live. Today on the stream, we're starting a new series, Why Every President Sucked. First up, George Washington. Let's learn about George Washington. Let's learn the dark truth about George Washington. Here we go. Share now, baby. All right. Maybe they'll bring in a couple more people. We got 141 people. What do I do on TikTok? I've been ruining stuff on TikTok as best I can. I mean, ask me questions on TikTok. I do a quick little 15 or 60 second ruin. I just did a little response to people who saying who say, Adam, you're on TikTok. Aren't you worried about the security issues? And I break that down. Wasn't some of this covered in a Reanimated History? Yes, of course it was. But, you know, on Reanimated History, we only have about 7 minutes to spend. And so we try to spend a little bit more time on, you know, we're just hanging out on the stream. Here's the deal. Let's put a little music on. That music's a little squinky squonky. That was Dub Lab. Here's the deal. I don't have a whole lot of prepared stuff for you, okay? A stream, you can't prepare for hours-long streaming 3 times a week. You just got to show up and wing it. What we're going to do is we're going to learn about the topic together. I'm not going to, as opposed to me doing all the research and showing up with a whole bunch of bullet-pointed stuff, we're going to learn about it together in the same room while we're hanging out. And so if there's topics that you want to, it's basically like a live research process where we're going to learn, I'm going to react, it's going to be fun. So if there's something that you'd like me to cover in the future in this way, please let me know. We do this every Monday at 3 p.m. PST, every Tuesday at 5 p.m. PST, and every Thursday at 5 p.m. PST, we do a live stand-up show. How about that? That's pretty fun, too. I look so much like Alton Brown. What's your secret? I don't I have more hair than him, you know? No shade on him. But you're from Canada, so this will be interesting. That's cool. I appreciate Canada. Let's see. What else is going on? Look at how blown out I am. Maybe if I put a little light in the back. Didn't really help. A little bit better. A little bit better. Got to get that white balance. Yeah, we're going to be learning together. All right. Well, so welcome. And I do want to say, if you toss me a sub, it really does help the channel out. Helps me do this more often. We appreciate all of you. But if you can't afford to do that, that's completely fine as well. Twitch is a free ecosystem of content. You can just hang out. You're not a better person because you spent $5 on this channel, so don't stress about it. Okay? I'm probably the only person who makes learning legitimately fun. I really appreciate that. But guess what? Guess who the other person who can make learning legitimately fun is? You. You can do it for yourself. You don't need me. You can read all you want on Wikipedia. You can watch all the documentaries you want. Kind of looks like a young Nixon. I look like a young Nixon? Oh, should I turn up my input? Yeah, you're right. I should. Checka. Bap. There we go. That's better. Thank you. We learn about Adam Conover's comb over. I don't have a comb over. Extremely rude. Bless you, KT Gremlin Teeth. I hope the owner of Twitch can afford all those freelancers on the streams. Yeah, you talk about Jeffy Bezos? Talk about Jeffy B? Okay. Just getting ready here. We're getting ready. I'm just queuing up all the tabs, all right? The sapiosexual stream. Yeah, that's this. Although I hope regular sexual too. I mean, I am a sexual being. Not just in my brain, but also in my body. I want you to love me for my body too. Okay? You'll always refer to below as Jeffy B. I don't follow. Yes, of course I heard AOC did a Twitch stream. It was front page news. So yeah, I want you to love me because I'm also a sexual creature. I know that's why people watch Hassan. Fuck. I want to say Hassan, but it's Hassan, right? And I fucked it up the first time. Because he's ripped and he's sexy. And guess what? I may not be as ripped, but I think I'm as sexy. I think I deserve as many views as him. And yes, he is my competition. And no, I will never beat him because he will always be bigger on Twitch than me. Thank you. I will claim myself. Just want to make sure that George Washington was racist. Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. This is an unexpected term. Okay. Thank you. See, this is a stream where I solicit compliments from people. All right. Welcome. We got 200 people in here. Welcome very much. I'm really curious if the native chiefs Washington fought really respected him or if that's what he wanted people to think. Sounds like probably the latter. I don't get it at all either, Shitty Johnny. I'm sexy just because I take the bus in L.A. There we go. Thank you very much. I do take the bus in L.A. I love the bus. Really appreciate it. Pretty sure Washington owned slaves. Yeah, you'd be right. Let's get going here on this stream. You'd be right. George Washington did own slaves. Should we start there? I mean, that's the most obvious thing about why George Washington sucked. Let's get a little basics going here. George Washington, American political leader, military general, statesman, founding father, served as the first president of the United States from 1789 to 1797. Presided at the Constitutional Convention of 1787, which established the U.S. Constitution of federal government. He's been called the father of his country. Let's see. He He received his initial military training in command with the Virginia Regiment during the French and Indian War. So it looks like he fought. Yeah, he was fighting Native Americans, indigenous folks. He was named a delegate of the Continental Congress, commanded American forces. He resigned his commission after the Treaty of Paris in 1783. I see. He resigned. Yes, he resigned from his commission from the American forces. Twice elected president by the Electoral College. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we did a learning stream about the Electoral College. We learned in those days the Electoral College didn't represent voters directly. They literally were able to make their own choices in those days. They weren't bound as they are now to the popular vote of their state. So that's really interesting. Need more tabs. We're going to get more tabs. Don't worry. Let's see. During the French Revolution, he proclaimed a policy of neutrality while sanctioning the Jay Treaty. What is that? So there's a revolution happening in France. Proclaimed a policy of neutrality while sanctioning the Jay Treaty. It angered France and bitterly divided Americans. It inflamed the growth of two opposing parties in every state, the pro-treaty Federalists and the anti-treaty Jeffersonian Republicans. Huh. Negotiated by John Jay. Closer economic and political ties with Great Britain. It's really interesting. This is like 20 years after the revolution. So quick. Really amazing. Fascinating shit. A little hard for us to tell if this was bad. Wikipedia isn't reliable, but it's a good starting point. I actually disagree with you. Wikipedia is quite good. Wikipedia is, if you look at, and this is really important. If you look at all the sources of information on the internet, Wikipedia is by far the most reliable starting point for any search for information. What you want to do is look at the sources, see where those goes. You want to find other sources. You can see up here, we're grabbing some other stuff about, we got the New York Times. Mental floss I sometimes find to be an okay place to start. Here we've got George Washington's Mount Vernon when we're going to talk about teeth in a little bit. But like Wikipedia goes through such constant peer review, it's actually quite good. And if you imagine a world without Wikipedia, like just look if I just look up George Washington, like what are the other sites that are going to come up here? We've got history, that's okay. Britannica, okay. This is a bad example actually because this is better than most. But like look what quickly pops up here. We've got New York Post. We've got Thought Catalog. By the way, I'm using DuckDuckGo, not Google. There's a lot of garbage information on the internet. One of my favorite examples is if you search for like green tea health benefits, right? That's something people wonder. Green tea health benefits. You will find nothing but garbage, right? You'll find, look at these sites. Healthline, WMD, these are all bad sites. WebMD, health.com, Medical News Today. These are like content farm sites. Here's a good one. This is the NIH. That's good and reliable. But if we look up Wikipedia, down here we can find health effects. And like look at how much better this is. Like, research has shown there's no good evidence that green tea helps prevent cancer in people. Like, we've got like really good cited data. Look, these all go to studies. Now, you need to have like a questioning mind as you are reading Wikipedia, just like you need to do about any information source. But as a place to start, it actually is much better than most other sites on the internet. So I'm personally a fan of using it to begin with. It also gives you a really strong overview most of the time. God bless Wikipedia indeed. And I always donate to Wikipedia. I mean, imagine what the internet would be like without Wikipedia. It would be so bereft of good information. It'd be nothing but content farms on the first page of things, you know? Or occasionally, George Washington would be better off because there is like, Mount Vernon and all these other historical, probably Smithsonian and articles like that pop up at the top. But like, for so much of the information that's out there, like, I mean, just literally information about me. Like if you want to find out information about my life, most other sites are just There's IMDb, there's Wikipedia, and then there's garbage like celebrity gossip sites on which all the information is wrong. I can tell you all the information is wrong on them. Yeah, and the best feature of Wikipedia is no ads. We are entirely donation run. Oh, you call yourself a we with zero serenity. That's great. I'm in grad school. My life is filled with peer-reviewed journal articles. When I search things, I'm usually looking at scientific articles. That's good. Good for you. Yeah, I donate to Wikipedia every year. I also have hosted fundraisers for them in the past. Watching someone browse Wikipedia is oddly soothing. Yeah. Because it's just like good. It's, we drink it like water. Like, think about how many times you've used Wikipedia even today without thinking about it. Really amazing. Couldn't have graduated econ grad school without Wikipedia. This would work in the search box. User zero serenity. Yeah. Congratulations on quitting drinking in 2018, Adam. Thank you. Yeah, that says that on Wikipedia. One of my favorite things about Wikipedia is that they're always looking for trying to figure out how to put my birthday on there. They've been trying for years, and people are always entering my birthday, but it's slightly wrong, and then someone else deletes it because they can't find a citation for it, because no one can find an official citation for my birthday. Although it now currently says my birthday because I believe Nickelodeon tweeted at me on my birthday for hosting the Crystal Maze, and I said thank you. And here, we can find it, actually. I'll show you. Born March 2nd. It is my birthday. Happy birthday, Adam. Treat yourself. Oh, the Adam Ruins Everything Twitter account tweeted at me. And so they took that as being a good source, and I agree with that. But no one can find out the year. And if you look at the history, it's all people adding that and then deleting it again. Let's see this. Yeah, here's somebody who added March 2nd, 1965, which is off by around 20 years. And then someone else deleted it. I really love that. It makes me really happy that no one can figure it out. Okay. Let's stop reading directly the Wikipedia page. Let's take a look at this Mental Floss page here. Mental Floss is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's a little light. I don't like using it as a main source for anything, but as like a way to find a fun list. Let's see how this is, though. George Washington didn't have a middle name. What's the source on this? Why is this a citation of this? George Washington's hair was all real. It looked white because he powdered it. Oh, I actually didn't know that. He was made an honorary citizen of France. For a time, he was a non-president commander-in-chief. He was named commander-in-chief of the U.S. military, even though he wasn't president anymore. This was a strategy to help recruiting, as his name was very well known. Oh, they were trying to use his fame. He only served in an advisory capacity because he was pretty old. He felt he should have been a bit more involved. No one will ever rank higher than him in the U.S. military. Hey, Recursioning, thank you so much for the subscription. Unbelievable. Thank you. Should we do this telethon style? Hey, let's get some hype in the chat for Recursioning. Thank you so much, Recursioning. Welcome. Join us. Welcome, welcome. Confirmed Adam born 1946. Very true, Dark Twinge. All right, when Washington died, he was a lieutenant general. As the centuries passed, this 3-star rank did not seem commensurate with what he had accomplished. After all, he did more than defeat the British in battle. He also established the framework for how American soldiers should organize themselves, how they should behave, and how should they relate to civilian leaders. Almost every big decision he made set a precedent. He was the father of the U.S. military as well as the U.S. itself. So a law was passed to make Washington the highest-ranking U.S. officer of all time, General of the Armies of the United States. No one will ever outrank him. That's really interesting. Let's look that up separately on Wikipedia, because I bet there's an article for it. General of the Armies of the United States. This is too big. That's a little better. More commonly referred to as General of the Armies is the highest possible rank in the United States Army. The rank is equated to that of a 6-star general and is one of 2 highest possible military ranks in the United States Armed Forces. Cool. Only been awarded on 2 occasions. In 1919 to General John J. Pershing in recognition of his service in the First World War. And in 1976 to George Washington, who was posthumously promoted during the United States bicentennial celebrations. Okay, this article should have said this. Oh, it does. In 1976, he was posthumously awarded it. Okay, never mind. It does say that. Excuse me. It's equivalent to Admiral of the Navy. Military awards and commendations are really interesting. Like, it's one of those things where it starts to be like collecting Pokemon. Like, it's really fun to read about the weird ones and the ones that have, like, never been given or the ones that have only been given once and, like, their regalia and stuff. You can get really into it. Now you're all guessing about when I was born. You're never going to figure it out. You're never going to figure it out. So here's the thing. I'm never going to say it because I don't want to provide a source to Wikipedia. I want them to have to find it themselves. Is it true when Washington found out there were homosexuals in our army, he didn't do what other generals did at the time, kill or imprison, but strongly suggested they leave his battalion? Good question. I mean, we could look it up. What does this say? Wall builders? Oof. George Washington was a homosexual? See, this is what I'm saying about, like, the internet being a bad source of information and Wikipedia being the only good part. Baron Friedrich von Steuben was known for his bravery and discipline and grit he brought to the American troops. Served as an openly gay man in the military at a time when sex between men was punished as a crime. Wait, this is weird. This almost looks like a photo, but this is a painting, right? So maybe this is what you were talking about in your question. Washington approved of von Steuben. He appears to be very much of a gentleman, he wrote when the Baron arrived at camp. And as far as I have the opportunity of judging, a man of military knowledge and acquainted with the world. He set up drilling the soldiers with strict Russian techniques. He didn't just throw sexually charged parties. He also formed intense relationships with other men. He became close to William North and Benjamin Walker, aides de camp, who seemed to be involved in their own romantic relationship, and lived with them for 2 years in camp. It's likely that he became romantically and sexually involved with them. His aides invited a number of young officers to dine at our quarters, he wrote, on condition that none should be admitted that had on a whole pair of breeches. That's fun. By the way, History.com, I do like their pieces. He legally adopted both men, a common practice among gay men in an age. So von Steuben's a really interesting character. And yes, George Washington was nice to him. So that's, he trained Washington's troops. Hi, Pete says, just want to say you're one of my favorite people ever. You taught and untaught me so much about life. I've tried to pass on your sayings to others I know. Love you, man. Love you, too. Hi, Pete 47. Thank you so much for hanging out. Yeah, this guy's pretty awesome. So now we're keeping notes here on why George Washington sucked. Let's add. This is an Etherpad, by the way. Why George Washington didn't suck. Was nice to von Steuben, even though he was gay. So he gets a point for that. And we also learned that he is a super general with 6 stars. let's not say didn't suck. Why George Washington is okay. All right, but we're looking for reasons that he sucked. Let's go back to things you probably don't know about George Washington. He had a pretty hefty salary. His salary was 2% of the total U.S. budget. Who are the richest U.S. presidents? $525 million. Hold on a second. The nation's first president was also tops in presidential wealth. This is from CS Monitor. Pretty good site, although it's weird that they're just doing listicles. His salary was 2% of the total U.S. budget. He's thought to own nearly 60,000 acres. Wow. 5 separate farms, 8,000, and 2% of the total U.S. budget. Now the budget was small at the time, but still 2%. Yeah, wait, okay, greedy. So this is reason number 1 that he sucked. Too highly paid. 2% of total budget when total U.S. budget when he was already rich as shit. Like he doesn't need to be paid that much. Give me a break. I know how to switch tabs. Oh, wait. Oh, I see. I haven't done this before on Firefox. All right. I like to use the mouse, though. Okay, we're going to cut this guy. Oh, here's me. All right. Oh, he had to borrow money to attend his own first inauguration. I'm not going to count this. He suffered from a laundry list of ailments: diphtheria, tuberculosis, smallpox, dysentery, malaria, quinsy, carbuncle pneumonia, and epiglottis. Now, I'm not going to include this as reasons that he sucked, but it is really interesting because we don't normally think of him as being sickly. We think of him as being like really strong. One of the things that's really great about the HBO John Adams miniseries, which I really recommend, I think it's a really great miniseries. And one of the things I like about it is all the production design shows them as being all the founding fathers as being like dirty and messy and like, here, what if we find HBO John Adams? Like their wigs all look terrible and they have bad teeth. And like you know, all their out, like they all look like this, you know, which is like very much like how people looked. Like people didn't dress all fancy and like look real nice, you know, like they kind of like they all had bad teeth. They all had really bad medical problems. Like it was the fucking 18th century. They didn't have a lot of the very important medical technologies we have. So one of the things I like about this documentary, it's not a documentary, obviously, it's a you know, fictionalization, but it portrays Washington as being, yeah, kind of weird.
Mr. Adams.
I'll turn this up.
Colonel.
Why is my audio not coming through? Hold on a second.
From Massachusetts, Mr. Adams.
Oh, it's just very quiet for some
An
reason.
attack made on one of our sister colonies. Was an attack made on all of us.
This actually doesn't look as good as I remembered it. I saw this years ago. One of the really interesting things about him was that he had really bad teeth. And so he often talked like this. He was really embarrassed of his bad teeth. And so he would talk with his lips closed. And he was often in great pain from back injuries, and his teeth gave him a lot of pain as well. So there are parts in that documentary again, in the miniseries where he's really like, "Hello, John Adams," like because he's in a great deal of pain, which is like really, I think, very cool and you know, unusual to depict him that way. Like just the physical reality of it, I really, really enjoy. But that's not a reason he sucked. That's a medical problem. You can't deal with it. It's a documentary if we believe hard enough. I've never seen Hamilton. I still have not seen Hamilton. Paul Giamatti's in your top 10 favorite white men. I've never ranked my top 10 favorite white men across all fields, just like white men. That's the category. I don't know if that's a great way to rank people. He might have been infertile. He had no children of his own. Wow. Infertility, including an infection caused by his tuberculosis. Wow. Okay, let's just say other interesting things we learned about Georgie W. Was probably infertile. His body was almost buried in the Capitol. He was not very religious. He was a moral man, very virtuous man. Not a devout Christian. The story of him kneeling in the Snow Valley Forest to pray, made up by Parson Weems. Parson Weems sounds like a guy who would make things up about people, doesn't he? Was that 2% of his salary as president? That was as president. In the enlightened tradition of his day, he was a devout deist. He never chopped down that cherry tree. Identifies the book of Life as Washington as the point of origin for many long-held myths about Washington. Let's take a look at that. This is from Mount Vernon. Mason Locke's Weems' biography. Oh, the same guy. Parson Weems. First published in 1800. The cherry tree myth did not appear until the book's 5th edition. Here's the whole passage. Whoa, look at this crazy painting. I really like that painting. Okay, so let's double check here. Why George Washington sucked. Never cut down a cherry tree. Lazy jerk. He was an inveterate letter writer. He penned between 18,000 and 20,000 letters. Too many letters. Master surveyor, fought for the British. He was a dog lover. He lost more battles than he won. Lost more battles than any victorious general in modern history. Huh. He didn't have wooden teeth. Here we go. Possibly from slaves. Let's talk about this. George Washington's teeth. Here we go. We're getting to the big shit, okay? His teeth began to fall out before he reached the age of 30. He eventually lost them all. During his lifetime, he had at least 4 sets of dentures made to replace them. Here's what they looked like. Look at how horrible this looks. Like, this looks like Dr. Frankenstein's teeth. Can you imagine putting that in your mouth? Like, after all your teeth fell out, that's what has to go in your mouth? How did that even, like, adhere to the top of his mouth? Really horrible. Really, really horrible. And eating with them. Yeah, how would you eat with these? It would make every mealtime really, really awful, wouldn't it? And you make 2% of the entire U.S. budget, and that's the best you can afford. Yeah, really good point. Jesus Christ. Okay, according to his... Uh-oh, we've got some sort of problem here with this part of the Wikipedia article. False teeth, not wooden. What is this? Take a look at the history of this here. Now, why was that taken out? A dentist pulled his first tooth. Why was that deleted? Okay, we're going to put it back in. Washington dentures were most likely sourced from the teeth of slaves, stolen from the teeth of slaves. Records at Mount Vernon show that he bought teeth from slaves. Now, I don't think stolen is correct in that case. So this is a little bit, by the way, we're gonna need to revert this person's changes here, unfortunately. Do a little live Wikipedia editing for you. And then where's stolen? Washington dentures were likely stolen from the teeth of baby goats. Let's just cut this whole sentence because it keeps going back and forth. Okay. Restoring unwarranted deletion and removing contentious sentence that does not add to following paragraph. Boom. All right. So now let's see here. A dentist pulled his first tooth. According to his diary, he paid 5 shillings to a Dr. Watson for the removal. Had 4 sets of dentures. Records at Mount Vernon show that he bought teeth from slaves. The poor and enslaved had been so he had 4 sets of dentures made, right? Despite many people believing they were made of wood, they contained no wood. They were actually made of other materials, such as hippopotamus, ivory, brass, or gold. The dentures had metal fasteners, springs to force them open, as well as bolts to keep them together. Records show that he bought teeth from slaves. The poor and enslaved have been selling teeth as a means of making money since the Middle Ages, which are sold as dentures or implants to those of financial means. Horrible. Like, to be so poor that you would sell teeth to rich people, like pull a tooth from your head and sell it. Awful. That is still definitely stolen. I don't think we need to make that determination. It's horrible. I mean, it's like, it's that they felt they had to do it, right? In May of 1784, Washington paid several unnamed slaves 122 shillings for a total of 9 teeth to be implanted by a French doctor who became a frequent guest on the plantation over the next few years. While it is unconfirmed that these purchased teeth were for Washington himself, his payments for them suggest that they were in fact for his use. As is a comment from a letter to his wartime clerk, I confess I have been staggered in my belief in the efficacy of transplantation. Washington used teeth sourced from slaves to improve his appearance, a subject of frequent discomfort for him. Now, this is on Wikipedia, and we've noticed some problems with this article, but let's go look at this. This is straight up from Mount Vernon, which is like his organization. You know, this is like a museum, right? So this is a better place to learn this from. How long is this video? Could we watch this video together?
Hi, my name is Joel, and I was wondering, what were George Washington's teeth made of?
What were Washington's teeth made out of? Well, everybody knows that Washington had wooden teeth, except he didn't.
Oh, this lady just ruined everything for me.
We have one full set that survives here in the collection at Mount Vernon, and it is made from a combination of animal teeth and human teeth, and some elephant ivory that has been carved into the shape of one tooth. The animal teeth are coming from probably cows and horses and have been sort of filed down to the proper shape for a human mouth. Now, the engineering of these really sort of contraptions, when you look at them, is quite amazing. The teeth are set into jaws made out of lead and held in place on both the top and the lower jaw by two sort of thin wires of metal that are curved to the shape of a jaw. Now, the bottom jaw is curved underneath to fit on George Washington's jaw.
This is horrible.
But the top denture is just flat on top. So there's nothing to hold it in place or
Yeah, lead. You're going to get lead poisoning from your own damn teeth.
shape it to your mouth. Then the last piece of the engineering is that at the jaws, where the two dentures come together, there are sort of very tight silver springs, so that when you open your mouth, the springs would force the upper denture to rise with your mouth. And so that's what makes the teeth go up and down as you open and close your mouth. Now, the trade-off is that because that spring is so strong, it's always pushing against the top of your mouth. So in order to keep your mouth closed, you have to really grit your teeth all the time.
Oh, no. You have to grit your teeth all the time. You have to like hold it closed because the springs are trying to pull it open. Oh no.
And I think when we look at George Washington's portraits, we can kind of imagine him doing that and really see how uncomfortable this must have been.
Like what a horrible, like, God, we are so lucky to live in the age of dentistry. To like just some people have bad teeth. And if you have bad teeth, all your teeth fall out. And this was like the best technology at the time. He was probably like, this is better than the alternative. But like the alternative was to have no teeth. But to like have to grit it closed constantly, it must have been so painful to do this. You're like holding lead closed with your gums. Oh, I'm getting sympathy pain just thinking about it. Yeah, he's always clenching his jaw. Ah. Despite his legendary physical strength and iron constitution, this is like weirdly... Okay, so right off the bat, you know that this is like a propagandistic website, right? Because we just read that he was in poor health his whole life. And this website is like... His legendary physical constitution. He was a mountain of a man. Like he's fucking Paul Bunyan or something. So already we can like know that this website is in the tank for George Washington. So if they are going to say negative stuff about him, we can really believe it, right? Letters and diaries, entries later in his life make regular reference to aching teeth, lost teeth, inflamed gums. Here, let me size this up a little bit for you guys. Inflamed gums, ill-fitting dentures, a host of other dental miseries. Payments to dentists, purchase of toothbrushes, really present throughout his life. Oh, my God. Not made of wood. Human? And probably cow and horse teeth. So one thing is, this article here, we need to edit this, too. We don't need to get into the slave thing here, but they're actually made of human teeth as well as other materials. Adding that, human teeth were in dentures per source. Publish changes. I love editing Wikipedia. It's great. Adam fixes Wikipedia. I do have an account that I edit it from, but I won't tell you what it is. We're doing this one as an anonymous. Okay. Over here. Used a French dentist who had been providing dental services to high-ranking officers. Whoa, Washington's dental troubles helped to mislead the British Army in 1781. Washington, who always treated his dental troubles as a state secret, was mortified to learn that a mail packet that included a personal letter requiring cutting dental cleaning tools had been intercepted by the British. Whoa. Tooth scrapers. Okay, whatever. Retained several of his pulled teeth to use in his dentures. Okay, Washington bought human teeth from African Americans. Oh, that's a nice thing to call them at the time. They certainly weren't considered Americans at the time. Deep within one of Washington's account books is an entry which details Washington's purchase of 9 teeth from Negroes for 122 shillings. Whether teeth provided by the Mount Vernon enslaved persons were simply being sold to the dentist or whether they were intended for George Washington is unknown at this time. Since Washington paid for the teeth, it suggests they were either for his own use or for someone in his family. It is important to note that while Washington paid these enslaved people for their teeth, it does not mean they had a real option to refuse his request. Yeah, so he bought teeth from his own slave, and he also had a teeth doctor on the premises who was making dentures. Now, it says is unknown at this time. Like they don't know for sure. It is weird how much they dance around this issue. They're like, he had no teeth. He had 4 sets of dentures. We know that there were human teeth in the dentures. We know he had slaves. We know he paid the slaves for some teeth. We are not sure if those teeth went into his denture. Yes, they fucking did. Come on, let's complete connecting the dots. Okay? This is on the website for Mount Vernon, a site which we have previously established loves George Washington. George Washington had slave teeth in his head. Bought teeth from his own slaves and put them in his own fucking head. I really appreciate this note at the bottom here. It's important to note that while Washington paid these enslaved people for these teeth, it does not mean they had a real option to refuse his request. So like shit like this, where I'm not going to keep editing this Wikipedia page, but the poor and enslaved have been selling teeth as a means of making money since the Middle Ages, which were sold as dentures or implants to those of financial means. This is like trying to subtly justify what happened. It's like, hey, it's an age-old tradition. People were always selling teeth to their masters. Everyone loved to do it, which is like, fuck that. This site, which again, this is the people who are in the tank for George Washington, they make a really good point. If you're a slave and George Washington, the president of the fucking country, comes up to you and says, hey, I need to give you 122 shillings for your teeth. You can't say no. You say, yes, sir, where's the fucking pliers? Because that's your only option, because he's the president and he's your master. You're a slave. You'll be killed if they don't let you pull the teeth out of your head, which, by the way, no anesthetic at the time. So imagine how incredibly painful it was for these people to have the teeth pulled out of their heads to be put in their imagine if your boss came to you and was like, give me your teeth. Yo, give me your teeth. Yo, I'll give you $5. Give me your teeth. Unbelievable. Horrific is a great way to put it. Commando Joe, thank you for the subscription. Yo, fam, sub if you hate stealing teeth from enslaved people. Jesus Christ, it's very yikes. I agree with you, Chesapeake Cannibal. It's very, very yikes. Yeah, really bad. And I just think it's like really shocking that this story isn't told more. I mean, this is a really, when you read about George Washington's slavery, which we're going to do in a second, there's so much stuff that's like, well, he was uncomfortable with the institution of slavery and he was born into it, and then he freed. There's all this like trying to like, we don't want to think he's a bad guy, right? I mean, even reading this stuff, I'm like, oh, George Washington. I like George Washington. He was nice to the gay man. Hey, thank you, JD Fitch, for the sub, and thank you, Asuna, for the sub. We got a hype train going, so that's cool. If you guys want to keep it going, give some bits or some cheers, and we'll keep talking about the incredible racism that this country was founded on. Like, there's this desire to cleave to thinking he was a good guy, right? Well, no, he couldn't have been so bad. People were always selling teeth around back then. Instead of just saying like, hey, the motherfucker put teeth from his own slaves in his own fucking head. That's bad. We can know that about him and know the good stuff. We can know both of them simultaneously. We don't need to apologize for history. We can say these things happened. We know they happened. And we're going to understand that going forward while we continue to teach about the other side of the coin. That's all it's about. It's not about canceling George Washington. It's about developing an appreciation for the fullness of history, so we're not leaving stuff out because it doesn't fit the narrative that would make us more comfortable. These things are uncomfortable, and so we need to know about them. Hey, thank you so much to Commando Joe for the extra subs, for gifting the subs. Really incredible. Give it up to Commando Joe. We got another sub too, didn't we? Oh, no, I'm just still getting the notifications slowly for those. But then, all the gens, thank you so much for the sub. You're incredible. Really appreciate everybody here for going on this journey with me, this journey of learning. Really appreciate it. Oh, Loose Change, thanks for the cheer. We got to learn about the bad shit, too. That's part of my point. We can't just learn about the good stuff. We have to learn about the bad things, too. Really appreciate y'all. Learny Journey, that's what we're on. A Learny Journey. That's a really good title. Learny Journey. I'm going to write that down. The Learny Journey. The Learny. Oh, damn it. The Learny Journey. Oh my God, Tactical Sponge is gifting 5 subscriptions. Thank you so much, Tactical Sponge. Incredible. Unbelievable. We got to learn from history, not repeat mistakes. Yeah, absolutely. Look, we're going to repeat mistakes no matter what we do. But we need to be honest about what is bad and what is good. Like, if we think that it is bad, do you think that it is bad to take teeth out of the mouths of your own slaves and put them in your own head? If you do, then you should know this about George Washington. And you should just know that. Goldbug says, I do think it's important to vilify the culture that accepted these injustices more so than the individuals that were taken in by it. I think if we think of these things as simply horrible acts committed by a person, it lessens the cultural responsibility. I don't disagree with you. But there is such a difference as KT Gremlin, thank you for the cheer. Oh my God. I think that's a fair point, Goldbug. But we also can't use blaming the culture to take the blame off of the person. There are lots of people who, we say about that was just the time. That was how that's how everybody was back then. That was normal. We don't need to judge that. And that is so often a cop-out. Like, for instance, if we talk about slavery, there were abolitionists throughout American history who looked at the institution of slavery and said, this is wrong, and we must end it, throughout the South and the North. And it took them hundreds and hundreds of years. Like, we're talking, like, one of the most amazing facts about American history is there was slavery in the United States longer than it has been abolished. Right? Like, let's just get the dates here so I don't fuck it up. The first slaves came to America in 1619. We know that from the New York Times. The slavery was made illegal in 1865. So that's about 250 years that slavery was practiced in the United States. And that's only 60 years ago. Yeah, 155 years ago. So slavery was practiced in the United States longer than it's been legal. Longer than it's been illegal. And the entire time, there were abolitionists saying, we must do away with this. Slavery was not practiced in other countries to nearly the same degree. People would come to America and go, this is fucked up that you guys are doing this. This is so strange. What is going on here? We had abolitionists who took a stand against it. They lived in both the North and the South. And then you had people in both the North and the South who said, I'm hearing you, and I'm fine with it, right? Never mind. I don't want to fight against it. You know what? Let's make a compromise with it. Ms. Brewski, thank you so much for the subscription. Oh, my God. The hype train is doing amazing, by the way. Really appreciate that. Keep it going. Can we max out level 5? Really good question. I'd love to know if we can do it. So, my point being, you had people then saying, let's fight against slavery. And we want to end it. And you had people saying, I'm basically fine with it. Let's keep it around. Or they'd compromise with it. They'd say, oh, I don't like it, but, I can't get rid of all my slaves right now. Or they'd say, well, it's bad, but, do we really want to seize slaves from people? And those people were making, they were educated people who have been informed of the issue. And they made the choice not to try to change the culture. Right, so there was a culture, but you can make the choice to try to change the culture. So here's the comparison I'll draw. It's a really good comparison between slavery and climate change and fossil fuels, because the entire economy was premised on slavery. Thank you so much for the cheer, AJ West. The entire economy of the country was premised on slavery. It was the economic engine that was making the whole country move. And in much the same way that fossil fuels make our economy move now, right? Like oil and coal and natural gas literally power the whole country. Now, you could use that as an excuse, right? You could say, well, people back then, how could they make a different choice? It powered the whole country. That was the culture. But think about today. Today, in fighting climate change, you have people who are saying, hey, everybody, we need to fix this. This is bad. And those people right now are, let's be honest, the minority. And other people are hearing those arguments, and some people are getting on board and say, all right, you know what? We got to fix this. You're right. We have to fight against it. And other people are saying, I don't believe you. Or do we have to fix it? Or I agree, but let's not do it too hastily. Or they say, I agree with you. We do need to change it. And then they pretend like they're changing it and they don't actually, right? Now, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, when the water level is higher, when we have climate migrants fleeing across the country, across the globe, when we have fires, when we have inundations with water, when we have all the effects of climate change, do you think that the people today who are fighting against transitioning to a new economy that won't contribute to climate change, right? The people who are fighting against renewable energy, the people who are fighting against public transportation, the people who are fighting against scaling down the fossil fuel industry, do you think that we'll be able to look back at those people and say, that was the culture at the time. They were doing their best? No. Those people made a deliberate choice to not get on board with what needed to be done and instead to keep doing the old thing. And I think we need to be able to have a moral judgment about that. If we don't have a moral judgment about that, then how are we supposed to make a change? If we can't look at a certain set of behaviors and say, that set of behaviors is wrong, we need to make a judgment, then how are we ever going to say this set of behaviors is right such that we do the right judgment? Does that make sense? Like, I'm not talking about saying George Washington's a bad guy. Let's never talk about him again. I'm talking about knowing the difference and being able to say the difference between what we think is good and bad behavior and saying when George Washington did that, that was bad behavior that we have to call immoral. I think you might be mistaken. Okay, here's what does this person say? I think you might be mistaken. George Washington tried to be the most moral man that he could be. For his time, he was ahead of the curve. But if Washington never died, I have no doubt he would be right there with us. That's just the kind of man he was. Why do you believe that? Why do you believe that? Just because he's a hero? Just because he's been presented to you as a hero in your life by teachers and by television shows? Just because, is he fucking Spider-Man? And he he always tries to do a good job. Like, why do you believe that? Why should we believe that? We don't know him. All we have to go on is his actions. If he was a good guy who didn't like slavery, why did he buy teeth from his own fucking slaves and put them in his head? Right? Is that trying to do the right thing? Look, everyone's trying to do the right thing. Everyone in their own minds thinks they're a good person. If you go up to anybody and you say you're a bad person, you're doing a bad thing, every single person in the world will say to you, no, I'm good. I'm doing my best. And guess what? They fucking are. Most people are doing their best, and their best isn't very good. And we need to be able to say, that's not good. You need to do better. We need to be able to say that. And so we need to be able to say about George Washington, it was bad that he did this. This was a bad thing to do. That's all I want us to say. I don't want us to burn his portrait. I don't want us to never read about good things that he did. I want us to hold in our hearts the bad things that he did as well, and to be able to say those are bad. There are things that he did that sucked, and we need to be able to acknowledge them. The title of this stream is tongue-in-cheek, right? That he sucked. That he didn't suck overall. That's not the point. He did some things that sucked. Washington believed in integrity. It was the one defining thing about him. What does that mean? Where does that come from? Why do you believe that? That's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's a very, I don't want to be too mean about this, but that's such a simple way of looking at the world. Like, where did that come from? He believed in integrity. I believe in integrity. What does that mean? That's like saying his heart was pure and he knew that love would win the day. Like, that's nice poetry. What does it mean about a human being? It's nonsense. That's nonsense, I'm afraid. I really appreciate you being in this stream, and I'm not trying to shut you down, but that is how I feel about what you're saying. And since you're watching me, I assume you care about what I'm saying, so that's what I think about it. Like, the fact that these myths have been told to you, and the fact that they're nice myths and they're fun to believe, doesn't mean you need to believe them. Every source I have ever seen said that, and it's not about some childish notion about pure hearts. Okay, every source you've ever seen. Like what? Because we're looking at sources right now, and they're saying that George Washington took teeth out of his own slave's mouth and put them in his head. Do you think that's acting with integrity? Do you think that's a good thing to do? We'll move on. I think you need to like stop watching movies and start reading history books. Let's look at George Washington and slavery. I need to get a little water here. I'll be right back. Look at this. My water. This is my glass of water. We had our hot water fixed today, and the guy turned the water off, and so it came out of the faucet all bubbly, and so it looks like a glass of fucking milk. Kind of tastes like an egg cream almost. Okay. So let's establish, first of all, George Washington was like very wealthy, right? The Washington family was a wealthy Virginia family which had made its fortune in land speculation. So they bought land, and then once it became valuable, they made a lot of money. His great-grandfather accumulated 5,000 acres. How much money did he have? Well, we already saw that his salary was 2% of the entire budget, so of the country. Pretty amazing. Okay, let's read about this. We really need to know. This is a long ass article. We're not going to be able to make our whole way through this, but history of George Washington's slavery reflects Washington's changing attitudes towards enslavement. Don't worry, the water did clear up. He became increasingly uneasy with that long-standing institution during the course of his life and provided for the emancipation of slaves after his death. Now, that's good. But why didn't he do it earlier? Interesting question. Upon the death of his father, he inherited his first 10 slaves at age 11. Okay. In adulthood, his personal slaveholding grew through inheritance, purchase, and the natural increase of children born into slavery. So he bought slaves. In 1759, he gained control of dower slaves belonging to the Custis estate on his marriage to Martha Dandridge Custis. His early data slave reflected the prevailing Virginia planter views of the day, and he initially demonstrated no moral qualms with the institution. He became skeptical about the economic efficacy of slavery before the American Revolutionary War, when his transition from tobacco to grain costs left him with a costly surplus of enslaved workers. Oh, no. Simple solution at that point. Free 'em, motherfucker. Catalina says, I accept no man is perfect. In 10,000 years, I expect people to look back on me as a monster. You'll be lucky if they do. If people think you're a monster in 10,000 years. Yes, similar stuff to the British Empire wasn't all that bad and all that talk. Yeah, Brits have the exact same problem with the British Empire. British Empire, one of the most destructive, discriminatory enterprises in history. And I love England. Gandalf the Fleek, thank you so much for the cheer. In 1774, he publicly denounced the slave trade on moral grounds in the Fairfax Resolves. Okay. That's good. So he's like really wishy-washy about it. After the war, he expressed support for the abolition of slavery by a gradual legislative process, a view he shared widely but always in private. And he remained dependent on enslaved labor. So this is hypocritical. I don't think hypocrisy is the greatest sin, but this is hypocritical. Wishy-Washington? Yes, KT Gremlin Teeth. He was wishy-Washington on slavery. Yes, Griffhammer. I'm morally against slaves, but I'm going to keep the ones I already have. I think slavery is very bad, except my slaves are quite happy. My slaves like me. He did try, and he's not an evil person. He wasn't a perfect man. No one is, even though we're taught he is, so we're looking at the whole picture. How can you say he tried, says Schlatsky. How can you really know about a personal life 200 years ago? I mean, we're looking at it right now, right? We're looking at that. He said, well, I have slaves. I bought slaves. I like slavery, but I think it's like economically doesn't like work that well. But also, I'm going to denounce the slave trade and the Fairfax Resolves, but I'm going to keep my slaves. I think we should abolish it through a gradual legislative process, but I'm going to keep my slaves. By the time of his, that is him trying. That was how much he tried. That's what we have here to go on. By the time of his death, so, I mean, that's what we're looking at. Like, I don't think that is a commendable amount of trying to me, because there were people at the time who did not have slaves. We can compare him. Here's a good thing to do. We can compare him to other founding fathers who hated slavery and did not have slaves, and we can say they tried harder than George Washington on slavery. He kind of sucked about this. He was a hypocrite on this, and they were not. And we can just make that moral judgment, and we can just say that, right? I mean, does anyone here disagree with that? I believe that John Adams had no slaves, right? Did John Adams have slaves? John Quincy Adams, what is this site? presslaves.zohosites.com. John Adams did not own slaves, and he was really unequivocal about it, right? He said Negro slavery is an evil of colossal magnitude, and he's denouncing it publicly, which Washington apparently never did. He never publicly denounced slavery. So, does anyone here think that it's wrong to say that John Adams had a more moral stance on slavery than George Washington? Does anyone disagree with that statement? I don't see how you could. And so we can say about George Washington, we can just say it and hold it in our heads that George Washington was hypocritical and less moral about slavery than John Adams. We can just say that and know that. Okay, Catalina Gearbox says that's fair. Okay, great. We've won over Catalina Gearbox. Okay, so why is there such resistance to saying this thing that we all believe? Or why do we always feel we have to defend him and say, no, he wasn't that bad, he tried? What is that? What is that emotion in us? Like, let's examine that about ourselves. What is this feeling inside of us? I feel it too. That makes me want to say, no, George Washington, he's my friend. He was a good guy, wasn't he? Didn't he always mean best? Why do we feel that way? What is that? What is that feeling that we have? Can we psychologize that about ourselves? Guilt, shame, blah, blah. No, I don't think it's that. I think it's that. I think it's the fucking hero worship thing. I think heroes are important to us emotionally, and we need to preserve them. You know, like, we want to be inspired by people, and we don't want to think anything bad about them. And that's just like part of the human brain. It's ingrained propaganda. It's nationalism. Maybe brainwashing via the U.S. education system. I think it's the hero thing. I think the feeling is school. The founding fathers are mythological figures. Yeah, that's true. It's admitting a long-held truth is false. It's the pedestals we love to put people on. Same reason come up with gods. Nationalism partially. You have no heroes other than people in your life because you know those people. I'm not sure. I bet you have some hero in your life, some celebrity or some historical figure you really care about. Yeah, maybe it's all those things, but I think the biggest one is hero worship. Because your identity gets caught up in which heroes you worship, you know, because they represent like what you want to be. Like, think about the Elon Musk thing. People are obsessed with Elon Musk. And when you criticize him, you say, hey, maybe it's not good for him to baselessly call a heroic diver a pedophile in public. People say, no, Elon's smart. He's just doing his best. When he invents shit that doesn't work, right? People are like, no, he's trying, like, you know, stuff like that. I think that came from like people seeing Iron Man, think, wow, Tony Stark is cool. And then I don't know if you guys remember, like there was this whole thing that came out of Iron Man where it's like Elon Musk is the real Tony Stark. He's the real guy doing it. And I remember at a time feeling like really positively towards Elon Musk. I was like, oh, this guy is like inventing a new electric car and he's trying to go to space, and like, oh, that's the best that humanity has to offer, and that's so important that we have people who are doing that, because like that's giving me optimistic feeling about the world, and those are the values I want to have, and etc. Like, this is you know, it ends up being a belief about yourself. And so then when that's criticized, people like, you know, end up pushing back on that really, really strongly, because they can't. It's almost like they almost end up feeling like you're attacking them in some strange way. Instead of paying his workers, he gives them frozen yogurt. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, Musk is a piece of shit. Oh, we should do a whole stream about Elon Musk. Oh, that would be really fun. Like how he didn't invent Tesla, how he became an owner after the cars were already invented, but then he like put in so much money that he made them start calling him a founder. He's not really a founder of the company, but he just like, they just call him that now. He didn't really invent the Tesla. Like how SpaceX is like, its main achievement is that it's like, been the beneficiary of a lot of government money that has been spent on basically, like in the Bush era, they decided to start subcontracting out NASA's work instead of the government doing it directly. And so his company popped up and started receiving money from the government, and that's why it's successful. More Elon Musk shirt. I bought the Kool-Aid and I need your help. Different episode. We're going to do that in a different episode, okay? By the way, folks, we maxed out the hype train, and I really thank all you for doing that. I really do thank you for that. Really awesome of you. Oh, Duke Cargo says, Duke Car J says, hey, Adam, longtime fan here. I have a couple personal friends at the WGA, that's the Writers Guild, who give you a good rep. That's nice. Would you say that we shouldn't put me up on a pedestal? From what I can see, you're saying it's imperative to hold everyone critically. Yeah, don't put me on a pedestal. I'm not your fucking hero. I'm just some guy I'm just sitting in my apartment here, talking into a microphone. Like, I'm not a hero. I've like really resisted creating a cult of personality around myself. I've tried to just talk about things I'm interested in a funny way that people enjoy. And a lot of my show and a lot of my work is about diminishing my own myth and my own mystique. I'm not trying to give people the impression that I'm omniscient. A good example of someone who does do this, for instance, is Sam Harris. Like Sam Harris, if you're not familiar, he has a podcast. This is a dude who went to Tibet, meditated a lot, came back, got a BA in philosophy, got a PhD in neuroscience, published like a couple of peer-reviewed articles, now calls himself a philosopher and neuroscientist, and does a podcast where he speaks very confidently about things, about like weighty subject matter that he has never studied, right? He talks in this sort of pseudo-logical voice about things like race, about, topics that he himself, security, religion, topics that he himself has no expertise in. And he has created a cult of personality where if you go look at his Reddit, I can show you. Actually, let me find it here. I'll 1 second here. Let me find it. Okay, check this out. This is a Reddit post I found. Sam Harris is the most eloquent, rational, and logical speaker I've ever listened to. Never say this about me. All right? Please, never post this about me. Over the past couple of weeks or so, I've been indulging in as much possible Sam Harris content as you could imagine. Speeches on the perception of free will. Harris seems like he is clearly the most well-thought-out and rational person. One simply has to abandon too much reason to disagree with him. The thing is, I almost can't find anything Sam says that seems illogical or even slightly unreasonable to me. Like, Sam is, of all the people he has talked to, always the most reasonable guy in the room. Like, this is like cult stuff, you know? Like, don't do this. And if you start talking to me, if you start talking about me in this way, stop. And stop being a fan of mine. I don't want this. I don't want people to feel that way about me. It's way too much. Do I follow Hassan Nabi? Yeah, I really like him. I like his work. Happy to collab anytime. I'm not talking about you, Catalina. Yeah, that really culty. Yeah, reminds me of Jorpin B. Peterson. I like the way you put that. I promise I won't believe everything you say, Adam. Good. I really appreciate that. Do I have any podcasts like you recommend? I mean, my own podcast, Factually, is really good. I recommend that. I really enjoy the Citations Needed podcast. I listen to Waypoint Radio, frankly, a video game podcast, almost daily. Well, not daily, but they go twice a week, and I listen to them whenever they come out. I just really enjoy listening to those folks talk about video games. Austin Walker and friends, really incredible folks. Humans Who Make Games, my other podcast. Yep, someone hit the podcast trigger. Catalina, I'm not really sure why you're flying off the handle here, man. I really appreciate you for subscribing. I appreciate you for watching. I didn't call you anything. Not really sure what's going on there. Thank you for being a member of this stream and for hanging out. Really appreciate you being here, and happy to always have a conversation with you, as I am with everybody here in this chat. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I'm not sure why you thought I was talking to you when I was talking about this person's Sam Harris post. Okay, let's move on. Oh yeah, so let's keep talking about Washington slavery. By the time of his death in 1799, there were 370 enslaved people in his Mount Vernon estate. He provided his enslaved population with basic food, clothing, and accommodation comparable to general practice at the time, which was not always adequate, and with medical care. Oh, let's add to our list of reasons he sucked. Bought teeth from his own slaves. Okay. Bought slaves outright. He purchased them. Never publicly denounced slavery. Let's get this right here. Expressed support for the abolition of slavery. Expressed support for gradual abolition privately, but continued to own slaves while he did so. Kept slave children. I mean, so did everybody. But yeah, let's see if we can find some of the practices here. Washington used both reward and punishment to manage his enslaved population, but was constantly disappointed when they failed to meet his exacting standards. A significant proportion resisted the system by various means, including by theft to supplement food and clothing, as well as income. Initially refused to accept African Americans into the ranks, but bowed to the demands of war. That's bad. Initially refused to accept African Americans into military. Let's just say that didn't want to accept. Thank you for the sub, Gandalf the Fleek. Moral doubts about the institution first appeared in 1778 when Washington expressed reluctance to sell some of enslaved workers at a public venue or split their families. That's good. At war's end, Washington demanded without success that the British respect the preliminary peace treaty, which he said required return of enslaved slaves without exception. He felt the divisive issue of American slavery threatened national cohesion, and he never spoke publicly about it. Privately, Washington considered plans in the mid-1790s to free his enslaved population. Those plans failed because of his inability to raise the finances necessary. Refusal of his family to approve emancipation of the dower slaves, and his own aversion to separating enslaved families. Provided the emancipation of the enslaved population he owned. The dower slaves. What were dower slaves? He could not legally free them. Dower slaves. Oh. To a wife for support in the event that she should become widowed. Got it, because he didn't, like, fully own them. Consider, okay. She had no option to free the dower slaves who were inherited by her grandchildren. So basically those are like a family sinecure. Okay, so let's put under why Washington is okay. Freed his slaves upon death. I will say, as long as we're talking about bad things, let's put this under interesting, by the way. Things we learned about George W. As long as we're talking about the bad things, we got to talk about the good things too. And I do think freeing the slaves was a good move. He didn't have to do that. Jefferson didn't do it. So in the same way that we're like he was worse than Adams in this regard, he's better than Jefferson in this regard, right? I think that's good. It's Adam Ruins Everything but the live edition. Nice. It sure is. That's what we're doing today. Okay. Let's look at slavery at Mount Vernon. Thought of his workers as part of an extended family with him as the father figure. Elements of patriarchy and paternalism. His valet, William Lee. Let's learn about William Lee in a second, maybe. Oni Judge. She escaped. He complained about the ingratitude of the girl, who was brought up and treated more like a child than a servant. That is like the number one thing about slave owners, is they're always like, those slaves are so ungrateful. So ungrateful. What a strange psychology that is, isn't it? Not complaining about a slave not being grateful. You created an Adam Conover cult subreddit? Did you just create this now? We worship Adam Conover because he said not to in the Why George Washington Sucked stream on Twitter. Okie doke. Have fun with that. I mean, I'm telling you not. Don't worship me. The audacity. How bad was the Mayflower stuff? Good question. We can learn about that another day. All right, let's put down here. He complained about his slave not being grateful. I think that's bad. Let's learn about William Lee and Oni Judge. William Lee, one of George Washington's slaves, served as his personal assistant. He was the only one of Washington's slaves who was freed immediately by the will. Was one of the most publicized African Americans of his time. Here's his picture. Oh, there he is back there. Painted from memory. Oh, yeah, there he is. Way back in the background of the picture. You see him? There he is. He was purchased when he was just a teenager as Mulatto Will. Became his butler. He brushed his hair. Wow. William Lee brushed his hair. Just like, yes, George, you're beautiful, George. No, it actually wasn't a wig. We learned it was not a wig. It was his real hair. He rode a horse named Chinkling? Is that a racist name for a horse? According to the historian Fritz Hirschfeld, Lee rode alongside Washington in the thick of battle, ready to hand over to the general a spare horse or his telescope or whatever else might be needed. Oh, he injured both of his knees. Spent his last years as a shoemaker. Oh. So most of the slaves were not freed until Martha died. If Billy Lee had been a white man, wrote the historian Fritz Hirschfeld, he would have had an honored place in American history because of his close proximity to George Washington during the most exciting periods of his career. Because he was a black servant, a humble slave, he has been virtually ignored by both black and white historians and biographers. Really fascinating. Yeah, I mean, this is a really short Wikipedia article for a guy like this. Check out Oni Judge. Now, much longer article for Oni Judge. An African-American woman enslaved to the Washington family. At the age of 20, she absconded, becoming a fugitive slave after learning that Martha Washington had intended to transfer ownership of her to her niece, known to have a horrible temper, and fled to New Hampshire. She married, had children, and converted to Christianity. Wow. Though she was never manumitted. What does that mean? She was never freed. The Washington family did not want to risk public backlash in forcing her to return to Virginia, and after so many years of failing to persuade her to return quietly, the family let her be. That's interesting. They let her be. Wow, look at this. Look at this publication. Absconded from the household of the President of the United States, Oni Judge, a light mulatto girl, much freckled, with very black eyes and bushy black hair. She's of middle stature, slender and delicately formed, about 20 years of age. She has many changes of good clothes of all sorts, but they're not sufficiently recollected to be described. As there was no suspicion of her going off nor provocation to do so, it is not easy to conjecture whether she has gone or fully what her design is. But she may attempt to go by water. All matters of vessels are cautioned against admitting her into them, although probably she will attempt to pass for a free woman and has, it is said, wherewithal to pay her passage. $10 will be paid to any person who will bring her home if taken in the city or on board any vessel in the harbor. Frederick Crit Stewart. Wow. So she fled when he was president. Judge was born in about... See, this is what's great about Wikipedia, is you can just learn about shit like this. Now, her mother, Betty, was an enslaved mulatto, and her father, Andrew Judge, was a white English tailor working as an indentured servant at Mount Vernon. Incredible that, like, white men would just, you know, have sex with slaves, rape them, or man, this is getting dark. I'm sorry, but like, and then their kids would become slaves. It's like such a horror. It's, you know, I've been keeping it light in this conversation, but like, when you read about slavery, it's such a horror, and sometimes it just comes and fucking wallops you. You know, you're reading about this and you're just sort of like, yeah, I'm in the future and I'm judging it and haha and this sucks and you know we can have a judgment against this, and then sometimes you're just like, you're put there mentally in this way that is just, it just overwhelmed me for a second. It's such an incredible sin. It's such a sin. Like, sin is the only word for it. It's so horrifying that we did this to people. And, you know, a lot of people don't want to say we. I can say we. I can say we. I mean, my fucking family came here. My ancestor is named Wolfert van Koenhoven. He was a Dutch man. He had a farm in you know, I think on Manhattan, in the New York area. You know, New Amsterdam times, rich guy, rich family. You know, I'm traceably related to that dude. You know, I got Dutch, German shit in me. Like, I don't know if he owned slaves. I'm not sure. I should look into it, actually. I'm curious about it. But he certainly benefited from the existence of slavery. Like, I'm like those are my forefathers. Are like the folks who benefited from it directly, the folks who helped impose and sustain this economic system that was built on children, babies. This guy, Andrew Judge, fathers a child with this woman, Betty, who's a slave. Her child's a slave too. Baby born into slavery. And then economic system is built on that horror. You know, they would split up families. I mean, I really recommend reading the autobiography of Frederick Douglass. Really wallops you with it because he writes so vividly about it. They would split up children from their parents so that they, you know, there'd be no familial bonds. They'd specifically keep them apart. It's so terrible. I'm sorry this is heavy, but yeah, like that's why I don't have a problem with the concept of reparations. Like, I'm not mad at the concept of reparations because everything I have today, you know, the fact that my parents were able to put me through college, right? That came from that history. That came from being on the top of an economic system. My ancestors being on the top of an economic system that created wealth for them, that they bestowed to their children, that gave their children better lives. Then those children bestowed that wealth on their children, and then it comes down to me. There are other people in America who the opposite happened to. They were at the bottom. They were kept on the bottom by deliberate policies put in place by people like me, by my ancestors, that enriched my ancestors at the expense of those other people. And that happened generation after generation. And that's why I'm here today. That's why I have what I have. And that's fucking bullshit. And I don't, yeah, that's a debt that is owed. I have no problem paying for it. And, I pay it forward as much as I can. I pay it back as much as I can. Currently, I donate a portion of my income every year, and a lot of it is meant to pay back that debt as far as I see as I can. But yeah, I'm sorry I got kind of heavy, but it just fucking wallops me. I should contact Henry Louis Gates Jr. Hey, can I be on your show, Henry Louis Gates Jr.? Hey, put me on your show. I don't think I'm famous enough to go on that show. I think they only want like Ben Affleck and shit. I remember when Ben Affleck tried to like hide that his was related to a slave owner. You just got to know that shit about yourself. You can't try to keep that from people. I appreciate that, KT Gremlin Teeth. I'm doing my best here. Goldbuck says, just because slavery is no longer legal in the U.S. doesn't mean that we are not still benefiting from it to this day. Why do you think chocolate is so cheap? Slavery is still going on in other parts of the world, and we're buying those slave goods for our consumption. We need to stop pretending that slavery no longer exists just because it's not happening on U.S. soil. True. Also, I think it probably is happening on U.S. soil to some measurable extent. But yeah, no, that's very true. Slavery is a modern day problem. It still exists. By the way, let me just say, whoever was saying they're related to somebody on the Mayflower, and I was saying I'm related to this dude, Wilfred von Kuenhoven. You got to remember that when you talk about genealogy that way, you're being very selective. You know, like when I say I'm related to that guy, and you know, if I were to go around going, my ancestor is Wilfred von Kuenhoven, and that's my family, and that's where I come from. Well, think about this. I have 2 parents. I have 4 grandparents. I have 8 great-grandparents. I have 16 great-great-grandparents. I have 32 great-great-great-grandparents. I have 64 great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. I have 128 great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. I have 200 and... You see where I'm going with this? Right now, I forget how many greats that's going to be. I think it's a couple more greats. I think we're maybe up to 1,000 ancestors, right? So... when people say, I come from this, right? This is my ancestor. They are cherry picking. They're just cherry picking the one that they want to connect to, right? Like if I were to be like, yeah, Wilfred, that's my guy. That's who I am. That's where I come from. I'm not talking about the other 999, whatever, ancestors who are just like some asshole, right? The person who's the slave owner, the person who's the town dunce, the person who, how many of those ancestors were, not in socially advantageous positions, or were criminals, or were, very, very bad people. We don't often think about that in our conversations about genealogy. Look at pedigree collapse. Okay. Pedigree collapse. In genealogy, pedigree collapse describes a reproduction between 2 individuals who share an ancestor, causes the number of distinct ancestors in the family tree of their offspring to be smaller than it could otherwise be. Oh, this is interesting. Is this like... Okay, hold on a second. The number of individuals in such a tree grows exponentially and will eventually become impossibly high. Yeah, that's true. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. A single individual alive today would, over 30 generations, going back to the High Middle Ages, have roughly 1 billion ancestors, more than the total world population at the time. This paradox is explained by shared ancestors, referred to as pedigree collapse. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because some of those people would have to be shared ancestors. There's some amount of inbreeding happening. Is this some Crusader King shit? Yeah, pretty much. There are more ancestors in a family tree than have ever lived. Well, no, not really, because some of your ancestors have actually have sex with each other. Basically the point. Takes a lot of people to make an Adam Conover. Here we go, Rupant Smiggy. I believe we call the current U.S. slavery system the Department of Corrections. You're learning so freaking much. So am I. This is what we're having. We're learning about it together. Yeah, this is a good example. 1, 2, 4. But then we actually have less than we could otherwise. That's pretty cool stuff. Okay, let's learn a little more about Oni Judge. And we'll wrap up there, because we've been going for almost 2 hours now. We're going to learn about Oni Judge. She's around 10 years old. She was brought to live at the mansion house in Mount Vernon, likely as a playmate for Martha Washington's granddaughter, Nellie Custis. She eventually became the personal attendant or body servant to Martha Washington. She said she had received no education nor religious instruction. I'd love to see this interview. With the aid of Philadelphia's free black community, Judge liberated herself in 1796 and lived as a fugitive slave in New Hampshire for the rest of her life. More is known about her than any other enslaved person on the Mount Vernon plantation, which she was interviewed twice by abolitionist newspapers in the mid-1840s. So again, I just want to be clear, there were abolitionists at the time. And anyone who, these are people who knew that slavery was morally wrong and wanted to do something about it. And there were lots of people, such as George Washington, who didn't want to do that much about it. And so a choice that we all have, I just want to be really clear, a choice that we all have living in society today is to either accept what everyone else accepts, or we can say this is morally wrong and I'm going to do something about it. And that's how we will be remembered well by history. The abolitionists are remembered well, and the non-abolitionists are remembered poorly. Which side do we want to be on? Where are we going to put our little bit of weight on the scale? Are we putting it on the scale at all, or are we leaving it off? Oh, this isn't loading. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we are. Ah, this is Billy Lee here again, over here. So this is by her own account. This is a newspaper article from 1845. She came on board a ship. This is an original source we can use here rather than Wikipedia. Whilst they were packing up to go to Virginia, I was packing to go. I didn't know where, for I knew that if I went back to Virginia, I should never get my liberty. She was in Philadelphia at the time. Got it. I had friends among the colored people of Philadelphia, had my things carried there beforehand, and left Washington's house while they were eating dinner. She came on board a ship commanded by Captain John Bowles and bound to Portsmouth, N.H. In relating as she added, I never told his name till after he died a few years since, lest they should punish him for bringing me away. Wow. He told her they would set her free when she arrived at Mount Vernon, to which she replied, I am free now and choose to remain so. Finding all attempts to seduce her to slavery again in this manner useless, Barrett was sent once more with orders to bring her by force. The messenger, being acquainted with the governor, lying to lodge with the disclosure of the object of the mission. The good old governor, to his honor be it spoken, must have possessed something of the spirit of modern anti-slavery. He entertained Bassett very handsomely, and in the meantime sent word to Miss Staines to leave town before midnight, retired to a place of concealment, and escaped the clutches of the oppressor. Wow. That is so dramatic. Why isn't this a fucking movie? Wow. Seduce her to slavery. Now, this is a little bit of purple prose written by an abolitionist from 1845. That's what's going on here. Like seduce her, like the evil seducer, you know. Man. The facts here related are known throughout this region. Though a house servant, she had no education nor any religious instruction. Says she never heard Washington pray and does not believe he was accustomed to. Trust she has made wise unto salvation and is, I think, connected with a church in Portsmouth. It sounds like this was written by some Christians who were a little judgmental of Washington. When asked if she is not sorry she left Washington, as she has labored so much harder since then. No, I am free, and I trust I've been made a child of God by the means. Never shall I forget the fire that kindled in her age-bedimmed eyes, or the smile that played upon her withered countenance as I spoke of the Redeemer, in whom there is neither bond nor free. Okay, yeah, so this is like very much a Christian magazine here. Wow, an amazing story. So she lived in New Hampshire for the rest of her life. An incredible story, the story of Oni Judge. I'm going to save that. I love that story. I'd love to write a movie about it. I mean, I shouldn't write the movie, but... do I have any good sources on video game development crunch? Okay, so look, we learned about George Washington. I'm going to answer that question in a second, the squirrely WR. But we learned about George Washington. Let's see what we learned about him. Why did George Washington suck? We're gonna review our learnings here. He was too highly paid. He had 2% of the total U.S. budget when he was already as rich as shit. He never cut down the cherry tree, the lazy jerk. That one's a joke. That's fine to not cut down the cherry tree. He bought teeth from his own slaves and put them in his own fucking head. He also bought slaves outright. He never publicly denounced slavery. He expressed support for gradual abolition privately to friends, but he continued to own slaves while he did so. He didn't want to accept African Americans into the military, and he complained about his slave not being grateful. After she ran away, then later instructed a messenger to retrieve her by force. So not really sure why that other source said that, you know, they didn't want to bring the bad public attention by getting her by force because according to an interview with conducted like, you know, contemporaneously, he did send someone by force to do it. Yes, let me add. In other words, he was a wishy Washington. I really like this typeface that Etherpad is using here. Why is George Washington okay? He was nice to von Steuben, even though he was gay, and he freed his slaves upon death. Pretty good. Other interesting things we learned about George W. He was probably infertile, and he's a super general with 6 stars, and he was in incredible pain throughout his life because of his fucked up lead dentures, which he had to constantly grit in order to keep them closed. Not a wig, it's his real hair. Powdered, though, so carpet does not match drapes. Any other facts we should add to our George Washington fact summary here. Yeah, von Steuben is a boss. I bet von Steuben was covered on Drunk History, right? Yep. I knew it.
Ben Franklin says, Frank, he's stretching them through the stretchers. He's yelling at them in Prussian. Then they go, what's he saying? Washington is like, oh boy. The guy doesn't even speak English, so he says, blah, 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 blah. And they hear, blah, 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 blah. What are we gonna do? But guess what? A young captain shows up, Ben Walker. He says, I can understand all the blah, blah, blahs. I speak Prussian, and I can help the Americans understand them.
Great show. Here's a little bit of tea. A friend of mine works on that show. He show ran it. He said he pitched me to be a drink guy, and the head of the show said, "No, Adam Ruins Everything is competitive with our show. We shouldn't have him." I was like, "I'm not competitive with your show. I'd love to be on Drunk History." But that's why I was never on Drunk History. What do you think of that? Yeah, rip Drunk History too, especially because they had written the whole season and they canceled it right in the middle. Comedy Central is really a bummer what's happened over there. I know I would have been so good. Well, the problem is I also quit drinking, so maybe I couldn't have done it because I don't drink anymore. Yeah, Glow was sadly canceled too. Okay, so sources for Crunch. You want to check out, you want to read Jason Schreier's articles. Everything my friend Jason Schreier has written. He's an incredibly talented journalist, writer about Crunch. His book is really good. He wrote a really wonderful book. Do I have it on my shelf there? It's on the other shelf. I'm not going to run and get it, but it's called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. It's really good. Check that out. And yeah, that's a great thing to do. Any other questions I can answer for you guys? Drop some questions in chat. We'll end today with a question bucket. I'm gonna go pee in my bathroom. The Freedom Quest of Oni Judge. They did make a movie about Oni Judge. Oh, wrong one. Let's see here. Oh, it's a TV movie. Produced for the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation as part of its Hero Live.
My name is Ona Staines. I am married now, and I will not open this door until you tell me who you are.
Burwell Bassett. I am nephew to Martha Washington, your owner. I have come to fetch you home. Now open up.
That law states that I can have you dragged back to Mount Vernon.
I ran away, miss.
Ran away? Why would you run away from such an excellent place?
I wanted to be free, missus. I wanted to learn to read and write.
She
This
has
actress
waited
is
on me personally.
well cast.
As you said, you are the president. Why don't you get her back?
Patsy, we cannot incite a mob or create a riot in our attempt to get Oni back.
This is a little cheapo.
He has led us in battle, and now he will lead us in peace.
This is like the people at Colonial Williamsburg
Come,
made
child.
a little home movie
I
kind of
believe
thing.
it is time for us to go.
This is like a Cinemax After Dark film. The Williamsburg films are bad. Yeah.
Everything will be fine, all right? You know how much Mrs. Washington has come to rely on you.
I do not want to leave you, Mama. How can they tear us apart like this?
Only child, we're slaves. What we want is a little importance to them.
But I have never been apart from you. How will I know if something happens to you? What if you get sick?
Listen to me. We have no say in this.
This is not bad.
Give these shoes to my servant, Oni.
Did I discuss Washington's exploitation of the Virginia slave law where he'd rotate his slaves in and out of Philadelphia? No, I didn't. Interesting. Oh, there's also a drunk history episode on her escape. Ah. Anyone know anything bad about Marquis de Lafayette? I don't. We could find out in the future. It's so much fun learning with you guys. This is really great. This is my favorite learning stream we've done so far. We learned a lot of great stuff. I did some good rants. We got a hype train going. We had a really wonderful time. My voice hurts now. I'm gonna pee. We'll do a little bit of question bucket, and then I'll peace out. 1 second. All right, questions. Lesson is almost over, Conrad DeCat. We do a good historical person like Thaddeus Stevens. He's my counterexample when people assume all old-times folks were racist. I'd love to check that out. Is there a former president you'd take Trump over? I mean, William Henry Harrison was dead, so... I mean, there were a lot of really, really bad. I mean, Warren G. Harding might be worse. Warren G. Harding is definitely one of the worst presidents in history. He's generally regarded as one of the worst presidents, this says. Deeply corrupt, weak president. Did I vote yet? Yes, of course I did. Well, not of course, but yes, I did vote. I did a drop-off here in LA. Anybody want any tips on voting? Especially in California? Please vote yes on 15, no on 22. If you haven't mailed yet, don't go to a Dropbox. Yeah, I would advise Dropbox over mailing. Although, if you need to mail, we shouldn't denigrate mail-in votes too much. You want voting tips for California? Okay, yes on 15, no on 22. Let's see. 25 is a tough one. Vote how you like. Yes on J. J's huge. Got to vote yes on J. And yes on... So, let's see. 15... fund schools by increasing property taxes for commercial developments when they've been artificially low in California for decades. That's one. Proposition 22 exempts Uber and Lyft from giving benefits to their drivers. We need to kill that one. Vote no on 22. Tell your friends to vote no on 22. I've done a big tweet storm about it and a post on Instagram. Proposition 21. Let's see here. We did a whole thing on this a few weeks ago, if you look in the VOD, but let me just refresh my memory here. Oh, yes, of course, rent control. We've got to vote yes on Proposition 21. Please vote yes on Proposition 21. Yes, Conrad Cat. Golf courses will be taxed their modern-day property values if Proposition 15 passes. J is just L.A. Yeah, that's a county measure just for L.A. County. I have not seen what the Constitution means to me. I would like to see it. It does sound good. RR, yeah, I'd vote on that. Bond measure for schools, yeah, totally. Please vote for it. Mr. Keith, L.A., I can tell where you live. My favorite historical figure, that's really hard to get out there. Is swearing allowed in chat? Fuck yeah. Worried about the impact on farmers. You know, most farming in California is a massive business, so I don't know that you need to worry too much. Yeah, fuck 22. I'm really worried it's going to pass, guys. Uber and Lyft have really, their ads are everywhere. Every time I turn on the TV, I see them, and they have convinced people, they've lied to people successfully. Like, people think that, if it doesn't pass, their drivers are going to lose their flexible schedules, and that's not true. But that's what people think. Go look at my threads about it. They're full of people going, Adam, isn't this going to happen? And I say no. And they say, oh, I didn't know that. Thank you. Because they've like tricked people. Yeah, 7/8 says 87%. Proposition 22 has a special provision that says that if it passes, it can only be amended by a 7/8 vote of the state legislature, which means it basically needs unanimity, which means it can never be amended. It's an incredibly undemocratic. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, something drunk driving for sure. What's a place I really miss because of COVID? Stand-up comedy. I really miss doing stand-up comedy. I did manage to do it once at an outdoor show here in LA. But, you know, stand-up comedy meant so much to me, still does. That's why I'm hosting this show every Thursday. Come back at tomorrow. We're going to be doing another learning stream at 5 p.m. We're going to be interviewing Celeste Kidd, who's a wonderful psychologist. And then on Thursday, we're going to be doing a stand-up show live on this very channel. I have listened to Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, Revisionist History. Yeah, I do enjoy it. Sometimes his takes are a little strong and a little bit like off of the evidence, unfortunately. Like they're a little bit slanted in a way, but you know, he like really does make you think about things. It's like Malcolm Gladwell, the stories are often better than they are true, but that doesn't mean they're any worse stories. You know what I mean? Praxabatal says, I want to do stand-up, but I'm super nervous and talk way too fast. Any tips? Yeah, you just have to do it. You just have to do it, Praxabatals. There's no tip I can give you. There's no advice that I can give you. There's no preparation that you can give yourself for doing stand-up other than going out and doing it. That's the fact of the matter. You just need to do it. It's one of the things I love about it. To do it is to do it. You get better at it once you start doing it. If you go out, here's what I tell people. Go out. Hopefully, do you have open mics or something like that in your town? If you can do stand-up like 3 times a week, something like that, do that for 2 months. If you do that, you will, after 2 months, know more about stand-up comedy than almost anybody can teach you. And if you keep doing it, guess what? You're a comic. You might be a bad comic. You might be an open mic comic. You might be a new comic, but you'll be a comic. And so I really recommend just go out there and do it. Who's my stand-up comedian idol? You know, I think it's often cliche to say George Carlin, but George Carlin is really, you know, we watched some of him on stream a couple months ago. Still amazing. What's happening, Javen Allen? 93. I love Richard Pryor, too. Love Tig Notaro. Love Maria Bamford. All right, one more question. We were just talking about voting. Yeah, vote, everybody. Vote. Hey, Life Virus. Just wanted to give some bits and say thanks for doing these streams, Adam. Always loved your content. Appreciate you, Life Virus. Thanks for tuning in. Do comedians remember their entire set or have bullet points for their stories that they have to hit and improv the in-betweens? You normally know your entire set. If you've done it enough, you know, it just gets in your brain. You just know what it is piece by piece. I always bring up a set list anyway, just to jog my memory. And also, most of the time you see me do stand-up, I'm trying new stuff, and I want to be reminded about the new stuff by my notes. I need my notes to do that. Every good stand-up, I think, also improvises a little bit, because if you don't do that, your set can, feel really stale. Like it can feel really rehearsed if you don't ever have any opportunities for like improv of any kind. Oh my God, Javen Allen, gifting 5 subs to the community. Unbelievable. Look at all the folks in this chat who just got subs. Give a thanks to Javen Allen for that. Unbelievable. Really love you. Thank you so much. Oh, Amy Coney Barrett got confirmed. Yeah, I mean, this is barely making the news, right? Because she is confirmed, reshaping the Supreme Court. Deep polarization. There are 3 major election disputes awaiting immediate action. It's really unbelievable that she's on the Supreme Court already. It's unbelievable. The Democrats are going to have to do something. They're going to have to do something, and I don't know if they will. I don't know if they will. It's unbelievable that Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away like a month before the election. It's completely unbelievable that it happened. Term limits for justice will never happen. That's unconstitutional. It would take an amendment to the Constitution, which will never happen. Democrats will need to come up with some way to change the court, and I'm not sure that they will. As a non-American, what can they do? They can pack the court. They have that ability. And I think they might have to, but it's going to take leadership for them to do it. Dems need to take off the gloves. It's only been years and years and years. Yeah, here's the thing about Republicans, the difference between Republicans and Democrats. I talk about this, by the way, on the episode of my podcast I have coming out on Wednesday with Rick Perlstein, who's an incredible historian, wrote Nixon land, Reagan land, things like that. Republicans know about power. They know that what you need to wield is power. They put themselves in a position where they can wield it, and they focus on it. Democrats don't do that, and if they want to be able to compete in today's political climate, they need to. They need to start thinking about power. They need to start amassing it and using it. Democratic strategy will be failing to shame the Republicans. See, here's the thing about the Democrats is that, the response is always look what Mitch McConnell said before. Look what he says now. He's a hypocrite. He's a hypocrite. Look at that guy. He's a hypocrite. It's who gives a shit? That doesn't matter. You think I lose any legislation points because I'm a hypocrite? You think think that hurts me at all that you said that? No. What benefits him is that the people who put him in power, the people he's indebted to, get what they want out of him, which is favorable Supreme Court rulings. And they're going to get that, and that's all he cares about. He doesn't care that you think he's a hypocrite, so why do you keep saying it? If you look at the root of their justifications for why it's okay to confirm Amy Coney Barrett, it's just them saying we can. They were we control the Senate, so we're not going to confirm Merrick Garland, and we control it now, so we are going to confirm Amy Coney Barrett. The end. They don't need to justify that they can do it. They just can do it, and that's what they did. Is it a slippery slope to pack the court? It may be. Yeah, I don't know. It may be. I'm not that smart. But it may be, but I think you may have to start down the slippery slope. I mean, what other choice do you have? Republicans are fine playing by changing the rules. Yeah, and I think Democrats should also be ready to do it. The other things that they can do, I've heard a good pitch, is that they should make Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico states. I think that's a really strong decision to make those two places states. Because that'll help, make the Senate less anti-majoritarian. And I think they need to pass a major federal voting rights bill. Am I excited for Biden? What a question. You think I'd really like what the Constitution means to me? Okay, maybe I'll check it out. All right. we're going to call it here. It's after 5 p.m. I'm hungry. I've been streaming for 2.5 hours. I have other shit I need to do. I hope you guys have a great day. We had a great stream today. Once again, tomorrow, 5 p.m., more learning stream. Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific time for both of them. Stand-up comedy stream. We're going to do both of those then. I want to thank everybody for chilling. We're having a great time. You're a good egg. You guys are great. Oh, and follow me on TikTok. And tell your friends to follow me on TikTok. I am newly on TikTok, and I'm having a great time on it. Posting more stuff all the time. All right? Have a good one. What about breaking CA into multiple states? That's too complicated. All right. Yes, God help us all. Goodbye.